Hi everyone, this is Dave from Geekanoids, and what you're seeing here is the Motorola Xoom 2. Now, if you watch my channel regularly, you will have seen me do my first impressions video on the Xoom 2 a few days ago. If you didn't see that video, there is a link underneath this video in the description that you can click on to view that video. Well, this time around, I'm going to show you the Motorola Xoom 2 in comparison to my iPad 2. Now, if I place the iPad 2 on top, you can see that the Xoom 2 is a little bit longer along the longest dimension there, and a bit wider too. Let's do this the other way round and place the Xoom 2 on top of the iPad 2, and you can see that it is in fact a different format. The iPad 2 is more of a 16:10 format display, and the Xoom 2 is 16:9, so more of a true widescreen format. Let's have a look at the thickness of the two devices. We can see here, if I pull these round like so, they're roughly the same thickness. The iPad 2 has got more of a tapered design, so feels a little bit thinner, but if we look at it from this profile, you can see that the Xoom 2 also has this tapered design on the sort of left and right hand side edges to give it a real thin feel as well. So probably about even on that front. With regards to the cameras, the front facing camera on both are okay. The Xoom 2 is a slightly higher specification. And if I turn these over, the rear facing cameras, well, on the iPad 2 it is not that fantastic. Although it does a reasonable job of taking photos and video. On the Motorola Xoom 2 we've got a 5 megapixel camera, a higher rated camera, which in my experience performs about the same as the iPad 2. Whilst we're round on the back of the devices, let's have a look at the speakers. Well, on the iPad 2 we get a single speaker here, which does a brilliant job of audio. A little tiny bit of distortion on this speaker on the iPad 2 at high volumes. What I'm going to commend the Motorola team for doing is these two stereo speakers on the Xoom 2. And they produce what is called a virtual surround sound. Now, I'm not convinced that it really does give a surround sound feel, but these two speakers are the best that I've heard on a tablet so far. They far outperform the clarity, the bass response and other frequency responses that are apparent on the Xoom 2. These are the best speakers I've experienced on a tablet device to date. So let's switch both these devices on and I can show you a comparison of the two screens. Okay, so let's pop the Motorola Xoom 2 round into portrait format as well, just so that they can both be in shot for you. And let's pop into settings to check that we've got everything set up correctly. So on the iPad 2, auto brightness switched off and we're right up to full brightness on there. And then let's go into the settings on here, and we can see auto brightness switched off and we're up to full brightness on the Xoom 2 as well. Now you can see even on the home screens that they're roughly the same sort of brightness. I would say that the iPad 2 is slightly brighter, very slightly, but very comparable on the brightness. Let's pop into our gallery, so into photos on here and into gallery on here, and you can see I've got the same photo actually set up. Now you can see on here we've got sort of whiter whites. Now it's probably the angle of my camera, but we're getting some sort of lines showing on the video. In real life we've not got this blue line here, if that's coming through on the video. What we're getting is a slightly yellow tinge, so maybe the whites aren't quite as white on the Xoom 2. Let's pinch to zoom and have a closer look in here, and you can see that the detail on the iPad 2, again, very slightly better, but I would say that the contrast and the colour accuracy on the Xoom 2 is better. So detail on the iPad 2 slightly better, but the actual colour accuracy, the colours I'm expecting to see with my eye, is slightly better on the Xoom 2. Let's just give you a closer look at that, so you can see those bands actually disappear when I change the angle of the Xoom 2. So a really good screen performance on the Xoom 2. So let's go home on both devices. So now I want to show you some internet browsing on both devices. So I'm going to load Safari on here and browser on here. Now I've already got the Apple website loaded here. Pinch to zoom on both devices. Super smooth, so no issues there with checkerboarding or anything like that. And on both of these, let's go to the Geekanoids website. So on here I've got it as a bookmark, so we just tap on here and we have got Geekanoids up the top here, and on here we go to Geekanoids. I'll try and tap these at the same time, but they might be a second out, so here we go. So this is loading over the same Wi-Fi network. They're both connected to the same network. We can see the iPad 2's loaded already, and we're ready to go on the iPad 2. And on here we're just waiting for these videos, and there we go, ready to go. So slightly behind the iPad 2 in loading speed. Once the pages are loaded, really nice to pinch and zoom again. A fantastic browsing experience on both devices. So let's pop out to the home screen again. That really does conclude this little comparison look between the two devices. I think that this is the closest to an iPad 2 challenger that I've experienced so far. The Xoom 2 is a lovely device. It feels really nice in the hand. It's very responsive. It's got a good camera, not a fantastic camera, but just awesome build quality. And I just want to mention these speakers on the back again. This is probably the highlight for me. Superb sound on the Motorola Xoom 2. They really have done a fantastic job on it. So I hope you've liked this quick look comparison between the iPad 2 and the Motorola Xoom 2. Please do subscribe to the Geekanoids channel, and I will see you all in the next video.